Question number 30 of the ID Passport exam from PhilNITS. In this question, we are being asked, which of the following is an appropriate role of a subnet mask? We first need to highlight the phrase subnet mask because this is what we need to look for. And then we read each and every choice, and then from there choose the best answer. Subnet mask is something related to networking, and so if you've never done anything where you need to put together a set of computers and join them in a network, then this might not be so easy a question for you. But if you've done something like configuring your computer's IP address so that you can connect to the internet, or maybe you needed to know what your IP address is so that you can ping another computer in the network to see if you can see each other, then maybe this one isn't so difficult. So if you go through each of the choices, for letter A, it's saying that the subnet mask is used to identify a MAC address on an Ethernet from an IP address. This one is saying that we can find the MAC address using the subnet mask, but I think you can find out what the MAC address is of your own computer if you just do one of those commands. Like if you're using Windows, you can do the IP config command on your command prompt, and it'll tell you what your MAC address is, and the MAC address is your machine address. If you're using Linux, there is a command which is the if config. It's kind of like IP config, but in this case it's if config, and that way you can also find out your MAC address. And so subnet mask isn't really necessary to identify the MAC address. So we put an X mark here. Next, for letter B, it's saying that the subnet mask is used to separate the network address because it includes an IP address and a host address. And we use the subnet mask to find out the host address of the individual computer that belongs to the network. I think this is the correct answer, but we need to also read the other choices. For letter C, it's saying that it's associating a private IP address with a global IP address when communication is relayed between an internal network and the internet. I think this is something else. It's not necessarily the role of the subnet mask. So we put an X mark here. And then we have, for letter D, associating a domain name of destination with an IP address. The domain name is you can put the domain name, but you don't necessarily need subnet mask to do that. You can configure your domain name, but you don't necessarily need a subnet mask. So we put an X mark here. Okay, so the role of the subnet mask is here, the letter B. And to explain this further, let's look at my notes. Okay, so for example, if we have this IP address and we turn it into binary ones and zeros, we'll get something like this one. And then we can divide it into parts. The first part is for the network address. This one here, network address. And the second part is for the host address, and that is this part here. And the way to divide the IP address into parts is to use the subnet mask, this one, so that we know which is the first part and which is the second part. So the subnet mask, its role is for us to identify the host address and also the network address based on the computations. We turn the numbers from the IP address into binary, and then the subnet mask too, and then that's why we can arrive with something like this, which gives us the values of the host address and also the network address. Okay,